Destiny 2 is in one of the worst states it's ever been in. From record low player counts to bad Edge of Fate reviews and bad gameplay systems, Destiny 2 is struggling, and it won't be long until Sony fully takes over and starts calling the shots, unless Bungie is able to make the necessary adjustments to make the game better. I've compiled what I feel to be the top 5 biggest core issues plaguing Destiny 2 right now and how I would fix them. To start off with my number 1 complaint, the power grind. The power grind needs a major shakeup. Personally, I hate the idea of power grinding and infusing. I don't think the gameplay loop of making number go bigger over time by playing the same activities we've been playing for years now is sustainable for the game long term. And on top of that, I think the economy of unstable cores for higher level gear is absurd and naturally makes you not want to use gear that may be underleveled because it costs too much to infuse and you might need those unstable cores later in the future. In my perfect world of Destiny, and how I would fix this is make it so the power grind and the infusing of gear doesn't exist. Instead, the harder activities in the game, like raids and dungeons with modifiers active, trials, competitive, and activities with the most modifiers and hardest set difficulties have the only and highest chance of dropping tier 4s and 5s. Everything else in the game drops gear from tier 1 to tier 3. And then make it so that the infusing of gear is just not a thing. That way, if you want to use a gun that you haven't used for a while, you can just pull it from your vault and use it without ever having to worry about the power level of that weapon. Now, if power levels don't go away, then at least make it so that infusing something just takes 1,000 glimmer. No matter how high you're infusing that item, just make it a flat 1,000 glimmer every time. And then obviously, if power leveling doesn't go away, then at least make it like every other MMO where killing literally any enemy, whether it be a boss or a drag, has a chance of dropping powerful gear, something similar to what they implemented during Rite of the Nine. This would make the power leveling go way faster and not be so boring, and actually reward your time and effort in activities that are more time driven and add dense. This segues us into the next area of the game that is not great, and that's the portal. The portal needs to be changed immediately. When the portal was first announced, I was under the impression that the portal was simply a way to navigate through activities faster and easier, but the system we got basically makes it so you just spend all your time in the portal doing solo ops and killing the MMO social aspect of the game. What needs to change is they need to make it so you open up the directory first again and have it so every activity you can find in the directory drops pinnacle gear, since they most likely won't remove power leveling. Then what I would do is I would change the name of the portal to the featured tab, where you can find all the featured activities that have the bonus completion rewards, all the new events and their content, and all the new loot incentives to focus that week. Obviously, update the directory a bit to make it easier for newer players to understand, and add tiered loot to every older activity in the game. The next big issue I have, and I've talked about quite a bit, is armor archetypes. The armor archetype system is just a terrible concept that should have never made it to the game. And the change for this is very simple and is what should have been in the game to start with. Make it so your ghost has 2 separate mod slots, one for a primary stat tuning, one for a secondary stat tuning, and your third stat is random. Obviously, this doesn't make it guaranteed that every armor piece drops the specific stats you're looking for every time, but it gives it a lot more likely chance to drop gear in those specific stat combinations. This would open up build crafting in so many ways and would give players more freedom to build the exact builds they want to make with this new stat rework, not the builds Bungie is forcing you to make. Which leads me to change number 4, the new gear bonuses and featured exotic lists. This is a very big problem with Destiny right now, and the main reason this is even a problem to begin with is because of the modifier Avant-Garde. Whoever was at Bungie and decided this was a good idea to put in the game seriously needs to be fired. This modifier essentially ruins all of the higher end portal activities that have the Avant-Garde modifier and drop the tier 4s and tier 5s because it limits what you can use. You want to use prismatic and exotic class items? You can't, because exotic class items aren't featured. You want to use some of the best exotic weapons in the game like Lord of Wolves or Queenbreaker? You can't, because it's not featured. You want to use an eager edge sword for movement like the Slammer or the other half? You can't, because it's technically old gear. Do you see the problem yet? One of my friends who kept playing the game after I and many others quit or just stopped playing regularly said that he just wanted to get some tier 5 gear for his builds so that he would have it for the future if Bungie ever fixed the game. Then I simply pointed out to him that earning tier 5 gear would only be good until December. Once Renegades drops, everything we're earning now will be considered old gear. So if you want to earn the new tier 5s and Renegades, you'd have to do the power grind all over again, because once you got high enough in the portal, the Avant-Garde modifier would kick in and every tier 5 you're earning now will be locked and pointless. After I said this to him, he stopped playing and hasn't touched the game for weeks. The Avant-Garde modifier isn't getting enough hate right now because all the tiered gear that we're earning is new. But once we hit Renegades, everyone who grinded for their tier 5s in Edge of Fate won't be able to use them, and I guarantee you those people will really start hating it. The fix for this is probably the most simple fix here. Just remove the new gear bonus, the featured exotic list, and the Avant-Garde modifier. And with that, this brings me to my last point: PvP. PvP just doesn't get enough attention at all. We hardly ever get new maps, we don't very often get new game modes, and when we do, they're usually pretty bad or they're a gimmick like Scorch and Relic, which can be fun the first couple times you play them, but they quickly lose steam after that. PvP, in my opinion, needs to take more of a priority because it's the only game mode in Destiny 2 that is different every time you play it. Every match, every opponent, every game is different from the last, which gives it immense replayability, something you can't say for most of the other activities in Destiny. Now, how I think they should fix PvP is by finally separating the sandboxes between PvP and PvE and actually focusing on PvP for once. We need new maps, different damage values for abilities so things like smoke bombs, lightning surge, and others doesn't almost one-shot you, different timers for abilities, higher base recovery rate, etc. PvP in Destiny will never be good because it will never be balanced. Certain melee abilities should not leave you almost one shot just because the person specs into the melee stat. Another example of why the sandboxes need to be separated is because there should never be a situation where something that's good in PvP gets nerfed, and because it got nerfed in PvP, it's also been nerfed in PvE. This works both ways. Meta things in PvE should not get nerfed in PvE and then consequentially get nerfed in PvP. An example of this is the Ahamkara build inside of PvE back in the day. It was pretty good, but because the Ahamkaras were seeing a lot of play inside PvP, Bungie nerfed it, not only in PvP, but also in PvE, pretty much killing the build that was in PvE. This is just one example of this happening, and I think just this is more than enough of a reason to separate the sandboxes. Just because something is outperforming in one area of the game does not mean it needs to be nerfed in the entire game. Bungie really needs to fix this game, because if they don't, Destiny as we know it may cease to exist. Now, I know that a lot of content creators say that, but this time it truly feels different. The player base is getting lower and lower by the day, the current state of the game is horrible, and Sony is starting to take over. We have Ashen Iron coming out tomorrow, which in my opinion has to succeed, because if it doesn't, Destiny's player base might finally get low enough to where they start losing more money than they're bringing in. Because I mean, just look at the horizon. If this Ashen Iron update sucks, most Destiny players won't be playing it. And then just 3 days after it releases, a little game called Borderlands 4 is coming out, which will probably grab the attention of a lot of the player base. Then just a month later, you have Battlefield 6. Then just a month after that, you have Black Ops 7. Then we would finally get Renegades, but if Bungie fails to meet player demands with the launch of Renegades, it wouldn't be that much longer till GTA 6 releases. That's why this time it's different. Destiny could not have picked a worse time to have a low point in the series, and Bungie has to make this right or else Sony will take over, and the future of Destiny will be up in the air. We have so many great games that are coming out over the next few months, and that's why they need to listen now. That's why they need to fix this game now, and that's why if they don't, the game will fall. Anyways, that's going to do it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed, and if there's anything else that is bugging you about the game or you disagree with me, let me know down in the comments below. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I will catch you in the next one. Later.